The 2023 men's tournament brackets are out. Doing this all in one take, so I'm just going to jump straight in, go round by round. I have changed an unbelievable amount of stuff since my first bracket. I did a pre-research bracket, a Sunday night final, a Monday night final, and I think I finally have the final piece put together Tuesday afternoon, so it is 4:05 p.m. as you will see on screen. I'm actually going to submit this as my final now, despite what's going to happen in the first four games. I only have one first four team winning anyways, and I think regardless of who wins that game, they will end up moving on to the round of 32. But nonetheless, let's hop right into it. So our first game, Bama, and the winner of the first four game, Corpus Christi in Southeastern Missouri. Always pick the one seeds here. Don't overthink it. Maryland, West Virginia, first game in the tournament. I have never missed a first game of any NCAA tournament since at least the fifth grade. That's as far back as I can remember. So 5th, 6th, 7th, no tournament, 8th, 9th, 10th, and we're looking to make it the 7th time I've done this. So I'm going to go with West Virginia. Originally picked Maryland here, but I think West Virginia, despite a worse record, has a much more difficult path given that they are in the Big 12. It's never easy in that conference, and I think it'll be shown on the court. Moving on now, San Diego State and Charleston. A lot of people love to go upset here. I originally had Charleston in my Sweet 16. After careful consideration, I realized people are really disrespecting San Diego State. You see the 5-12 upset there. You really want to go with it, but you got to think smarter here. Same thing here with Virginia and Furman. Furman's a great offensive team, but you're forgetting that Virginia is in a Power 6 conference and an absolutely dominant defensive force. I will take the Hokies. Moving on now, Creighton, NC State. Neither one of these teams are great in my opinion. I think Creighton's very overseeded. Not sure NC State shouldn't be in the first four tonight or tomorrow night, but nonetheless, I think of the two, Creighton is the less worse, I think. So I'm going to go with them. And now here comes Baylor and UC Santa Barbara. I see a couple people like the Gauchos here, and I don't hate that pick. They almost won a game against Creighton a couple years ago, and they're definitely a good little squad going on. But I just think Baylor, despite how weak they are recently, they're definitely better than a little mid-major like that. Now we move on to Missouri and Utah State. I think this is a great matchup. Missouri, heavily underrated, got great wins during the season. I think they beat Bama, or at least played them very close. They've had a couple really good wins in the SEC, very difficult conference, and you got a team like Utah State coming in here with one of the most high-octane three-point shooting teams in this tournament, which is why I'm actually going to pick my first, I guess, upset, so to speak. I will take the 10 over the 7 here. I really think Utah State is going to show up and hit a couple shots down the stretch when it matters. I just don't think Missouri's got the longevity to maintain running with the offense of Utah State. Now, Arizona, Princeton. I'm not even going to explain this. I will take all 1 and 2 seeds here, so same thing. Moving on with Purdue. Now here, I think this one's pretty obvious. Unfortunate for FAU. Really great team, 31 and 3. Their record is incredible, but I think unfortunately for them, they got put up against probably the best 8 seed in this entire tournament in Memphis. So Penny Hardaway's got those boys playing well. That's why I'm picking them. Now on to my favorite 5-12 matchup, and regardless of who wins this one, I won't be disappointed. I won't be mad. I'll probably be sad for the losing team because two of the hottest teams in the nation, Duke and Oral Roberts, who doesn't want to see one of these two teams win or lose? I mean, putting them against each other is just to get views, and I get that, but it's just so evil what the community did. With that being said, I'm taking Duke. Of the two, I know Oral Roberts is 30 and 4, but Aspis is amazing. He always has been, but there's just so much firepower in that Duke squad right now. They're young. They're playing great. Filipowski is absolutely dominant in the paint. He's just going to be hard to get around. I think the lack of bigs is what is going to catch up to Oral Roberts there in that first round. Moving on now, Tennessee, Louisiana. Tennessee might not be playing great, but their net ranking is incredible, so I will take them over Louisiana. Kentucky, Providence. I went back and forth here. Really don't want to see Kentucky win this game after Calipari's had a couple of very bad games against Vanderbilt. Maybe that's just their kryptonite, though. Oscar Sheba is way too good. I'm going to take the Wildcats here and continue the trend of the Wildcats as Kansas State will take down Montana State. Originally had this as a Montana State upset, but looking back at it now, it was definitely an impulsive decision, taking a 14-3. Not the right one. Moving on now to Tom Izzo Spartans taking on the Trojans of USC. I will take the Spartans. I think it's something like Big Ten teams are 13-1 in 7 10-seed matchups for however long that span is. But I think despite losing to Ohio State, who was red hot in the tournament, my team, the Buckeyes, were just showing out against a couple teams, which they definitely shouldn't have. But they played well. I just don't think Michigan State ever got a chance to catch up in that game. The Big Ten is just bonkers this year. It's going to be hard to tell if the whole conference is good or bad. Usually it's the whole conference is terrible, but I guess we'll see with how Purdue and other teams play in this tournament. Moving on now to Marquette, Vermont. I will take Marquette as much as I don't want to trust Shaka Smart from 2021 when the 3-seeded Longhorns, who I had going to the Final Four, were knocked out in the final game on Saturday night against Abilene Christian. It is what it is, though. I am going to take Marquette to win this one here, so that is the start of my bracket. Let me see if I can find the other regions. Got to go across the board here. We'll go up to the top right. And we're going to go with Houston over Northern Kentucky. I think if a 16 seed can win, it's definitely the Norse, especially if Marcus Sasser doesn't play. But I think he'll be back and healthy by at least the second round, if not the first. So I'm pretty confident there. I'm going to take Iowa over... Did not mean to put Northern Kentucky. I'll take Iowa over Auburn here. Neither one of these teams are great. Honestly, they're both miserable if you ask me, but I think Murray is going to be the deciding factor in this one. Auburn, Bruce Pearl just does not have this team playing with a lot of passion, and I think that is the issue. It's going to catch up with the Auburn Tigers, so I will take the Hawkeyes there. Moving down now to a 5-12 matchup, which I like a lot more than Charleston and who was the other team over there? San Diego State. I'm going to take Drake over Miami here as my first 5-12 upset. I don't dislike either team. I think Jim Laurinaitis has taken that team to good places from Miami. Unfortunately, they got a really difficult matchup here with Drake in the first round. And teams from that conference have won 8 of the last 10 times that they've been in there. So I'm going to take Drake to win that game. And here's the game that I went back and forth on, much like Miami, because at one point I had Miami to the Elite Eight. At one point I had Indiana to the Elite Eight, and I decided both times to scratch that. I like the Golden Flashes of Kent State. There's always a team in the MAC that comes out and just surprises people. It was Ohio in 2021, and a lot of these MAC teams can shoot the ball very well, and I think Kent State might be the biggest display of that, honestly. Kept a close game to Houston. Close game to another powerhouse, which I can't remember off the top of my head for whatever reason, but they've won all their games by a ton of points. They've dominated the MAC for the most part. Beat Toledo twice, who was the number 1 team in their conference. I like Kent State here. Moving on now to Iowa State versus the winner of tonight's game in Mississippi State Pitt. I'm going to take the winner of tonight's game over Iowa State. I think Iowa State might be the most fraudulent 6th seed in this tournament, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that there. I'll take Xavier over Kennesaw State. Unfortunately, I do not think the ASUN is going to produce any teams that are going to win anytime soon. Moving on now to a great matchup between two fire-hot teams. The SEC runner-up in A&M, who was heavily underseeded. They deserved a 5 seed at minimum. They are a 7 seed here, taking on the 10 seed Penn State, who had a great Big Ten tournament run and nearly stole it at the very end. But I'm going to take the Aggies of A&M. I think this one can go either way, and I wouldn't be too disappointed. But I'm going to move on now. I'll take Texas as well to finish up that region's first round. Up here, we will take Kansas. Another game I went back and forth on here, Arkansas and Illinois. I just think at the end of the day, it's going to be the coaching of Eric Musselman that's going to get the job done over the Fighting Illini. Moving on now to my second 12-5 upset. I will take VCU over St. Mary's. Watched them play Sunday against Dayton, and they completely dismantled them. They made them feel uncomfortable. They took that team who was actually playing pretty well in Dayton and needed a win to qualify for the tournament, and they just completely let them have no chance whatsoever. So I think St. Mary's, who's coming off of a blowout loss to a great Gonzaga team, is going to have some issues with another mid-major conference. Moving on now to the Gales of Iona, read by Rick Pitino. Could be his final game against a team where he could face quite a bit if he joins the Big East and coaches St. John's like a lot of people are projecting. I like the Huskies, though. I think UConn has the offensive rebounding ability that no other team has. They snagged 15 offensive rebounds in the Big East semifinal against Marquette in that 2-point loss. They are just incredible on the offensive glass. I like UConn there. Moving on now, I will take TCU over the winner of tomorrow night's 11-seed matchup between Arizona State and Nevada. I think the Sun Devils will come out on top there. Not sure that Nevada deserved to make the tournament this year. No disrespect to any of their players or coaching staff. I just think other teams like Rutgers definitely should have made it over them. Nonetheless, I'll take Gonzaga over Grand Canyon. Won't spend too much time on that. Northwestern Boise State went back and forth on this one for quite some time as well. But I can't go against Boo Buie. I love him too much. Lost 4 of their last 5, but I think playing a team like Boise State is good. I think they've only lost 1 game when they've allowed less than 65 points or something like that. So that's the magic number for Northwestern. I think they will hold Boise State to underneath that. And then I will take the 2 seed UCLA for my final first round game. We will go back up here to the top left And what we're going to do, we're just going to knock out the rest of the region, actually. So I will take Bama and their studded freshman and Javon Quinterly as well over the West Virginia led by Bob Huggins. Love Huggins, really do. I think he's the most winningest coach now that Boeheim has stepped down after 47 years. We'll see what Syracuse does there. They'll be interesting in the future, but they're not here, so let's not talk about them. I will take San Diego State over Virginia, more or less because I feel like SDSU has a better chance of not losing first round. Virginia's defense, I think they're going to have a struggling time against that SDSU offense, who is very disciplined. I think SDSU is one of the more experienced teams in this tournament. I think them and Drake might be the two oldest, if I'm not mistaken. Moving on now, I am going to take Creighton over Baylor. This is going to seem like somewhat of an upset, but neither one of these teams playing good. I think of the two teams playing poorly, it's going to come down to Creighton. Baylor's defense is awful this year, especially compared to years past. I mean, they won the tournament 2 years ago during the COVID shutdown, and they had a decent run last year too. I just think it is going to come down to defense in this game. That is something Baylor does not have. They cannot run with the offense of Creighton. Down here, give me Arizona. So now into the Sweet 16. I will take Alabama over SDSU, and I will take Arizona over Creighton. And who will go to the Final Four? The Bama Crimson Tide or the Arizona Wildcats? Kind of went back and forth on this one for a little bit too. I really want to pick Arizona after winning the Pac-12, but I do realize that they played an injured UCLA team and still barely won, despite having numerous chances to close that game out. And I think it's going to come down to closing the game out. So I'm going to take Alabama, the 1 seed, to win this region. We're going to move on now to the bottom. This is the East region, probably one of the crazier regions, for my picks at least. I'm going to start off here with my first 1 seed going home. I will take the Memphis Tigers over the Boilermakers. Penny Hardaway's got that team running fast, and I think at some point Edey is going to get into foul trouble. He's going to get shut down. Something like that is going to happen, and when it does, that's going to pose problems for Purdue. We know they can't break the press very well. We saw that a lot in the Big Ten tournament. I just don't like their matchup against the aggressive defense of Memphis, so I will take the Tigers here. I'll take the Blue Devils over Tennessee. Obviously, Tennessee not playing well. Kansas State, Kentucky, battle the Wildcats. This is kind of difficult for me, but I am going to take Kansas State. I feel like they're playing a little bit better right now and in a better conference. And Kentucky losing in the SEC quarterfinal, just not very good. Bottom game now here. I don't know why I just paused for so long. I'm going to take the Golden Flashes of Marquette over Michigan State. I don't know that Izzo has the running ability with Kohler. I think that's his name. So I'm going to take Marquette to win that game. But now into the Sweet 16. Give me Duke over Memphis. I love how quick their freshmen can get out in the transition and all that. And I will take Marquette over Kansas State as well. I just feel more comfortable about Marquette's path in this tournament, which is why I will be taking them to go to the Final Four. I know it's very risky to do the Big East team, but I am going to be doing that nonetheless. So our first Final Four matchup is set. Moving on now to the top right, I will take Houston over Iowa. And in the battle of the 12-13, which we've seen over here before between Oregon and UC Irvine, I think that was 19, may have been 18 that happened. But I will take the Golden Flashes with another upset over the Drake Bulldogs. Like I said, I love the way they play offense, and I just think it's going to be a nightmare for whoever has to defend them outside the arc. Here I kind of went back and forth. Originally had Pitt, who I think is going to win tonight, taking this game against Xavier. But even though they have the injury down low, I don't think it's going to affect them too much in this game. But the next round matchup, who I will take Texas over A&M. I feel like whoever wins that A&M Penn State game kind of got screwed over by a really hot Texas team who is just dominant. Marcus Carr might be my favorite player in America, in all honesty. And Sir-Jabari Rice is just incredible as well off the bench. I mean, he filled in to the shoes of a couple injured players for Texas. Here in the Sweet 16, I will take Houston. Kansas State's run is going to come to a close against a really tough team. Sasser will definitely be back by the second week. And I will take Texas and Marcus Carr. Here's a great matchup. Houston and Texas, battle of the Alamo State. And I like Texas to take this one. I just think it's going to come down to not really who can run faster necessarily. It's going to be who can run for longer. And I think that is the Texas Longhorns. So moving down to the bottom right, this might be the most chaotic region. Any of the top, I think, 4 teams could win this region, and I would not argue with you. So I'm going to take the 4 teams that are the best in this region. I guess I'll explain why. I think Kansas has more firepower than Arkansas. I think UConn, like I said, the offensive rebounding ability is going to kill VCU, especially because they have a lot of guard play. Gonzaga over TCU. Gonzaga might be the hottest team in America. That's arguable. I mean, they dominated the WCC And then UCLA over Northwestern, kind of pondered this because 14 of the last 15 tournaments, not every 2 seed has made the Sweet 16. So I kind of thought about that for a little bit, but I'm going to go UCLA. Then here I'm going to go with 2 upsets. UConn over Kansas, Gonzaga over UCLA. I love the way the Huskies rebound the basketball. I've said it so many times, but I really do love how they rebound the basketball. And Gonzaga, UCLA, the matchup that we've been waiting for the rematch in that 2021 semifinal game. I like the Zags against UCLA. It's going to be a kind of a matchup there, but I just think Clark's injury is really going to kill UCLA down the stretch, and that's going to affect their bench depth quite a bit. And in the regional final, I'm going to take Gonzaga, so a 3 seed is going to join 2 seeds and a 1 seed in the Final Four. And here, Alabama Marquette. I just don't think the Big East can run with the SEC. Give me Alabama to win that one. And here in our second semifinal game, Texas Gonzaga. I'm looking forward to this matchup probably more than anything else. I really hope this one happens. It's going to be probably a 90 to 95 type of scoring game in my opinion. But I like Texas in this one. I just think they have more star-studded players compared to the likes of Gonzaga. And in the championship game, as much as I want to take Texas in this one, they have such a more difficult path. And you can play March Madness brackets in 2 ways. You can do, I think this team's going to go to round of 32. How do they match up against another team in round of 32? Or you could play it the way that I'm going to play it this year, and that is Alabama has the easiest path in, the first round, the second round, the third round. You might even argue in the Elite Eight as well. Do they just have a less chance of losing those games? And if that's your answer, then that's what I'm going to go with. I know a number 1 overall seed has not won since 2008 with Mario Chalmers' Kansas team, but I think it's finally time to break the curse there. I think Texas will give them a great game. I'm actually going to go with Bama to score 78 and Texas to score 71. But yeah, that is my final bracket. I will have Alabama to beat Texas in the national championship game. This will probably be an awful bracket. It has gotten progressively worse for me over the last couple of years, but been playing against a friend since middle school and still have not lost to him yet. So that is all I care about, in all honesty. As much as I pray for a perfect bracket, it'll probably be ruined by game 2. As long as I win the first game, that's what matters the most to me. But anyways, yeah, I'm taking Alabama to win the NCAA tournament in 2023 for the men's college basketball championship. Let me know in the comments down below who you guys are taking. And yeah, I will try to make some more content in the future relating to basketball, depending on what comes down in certain games. I might do a couple game reviews, something like that. But lots of free agency stuff going on in football right now as well. So you football fans that are subscribed to me, I will get right back on the train with that very, very soon. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.